In the bustling lobby of Sterling Financial Bank, an ID card clattered against the marble floor, its sharp sound reverberating through the air like a gunshot. Anderson Mitchell, the senior manager of the institution, had callously tossed the ID card of a 60-year-old black man onto the ground, treating it as if it were mere refuse. "I'm sorry, but documents like these don't inspire confidence," Anderson remarked, a dismissive smile playing on his lips as he adjusted his Italian tie, watching the man stoop to retrieve his ID. "Perhaps you'd be better off seeking a bank more suited to your profile." Roberto Silva remained crouched for a moment, his hand steady and unwavering as he grasped the document. At 60, he possessed the posture of someone who had endured far greater storms than the arrogance of a young executive. When he finally stood, his eyes met Anderson's with a disquieting serenity. The scene had drawn the attention of other patrons in the bank. An elegant lady whispered to her husband, discreetly gesturing toward Roberto, while two executives paused their conversation to observe the unfolding awkwardness. The silence in the room was so palpable that even the hum of the air conditioning seemed amplified. "I understand perfectly," Roberto replied, his calm voice a stark contrast to the blatant contempt he had just experienced. "I merely came to conduct a simple transaction, but I realize now that perhaps this is not the right time." Anderson rolled his eyes and turned to Paula, his assistant, who had witnessed the entire scene with evident discomfort. "It's always like this with these kinds of people," he muttered, loud enough to be overheard. "They think they can just walk in here without understanding how things work." Roberto Silva was not just any man. Despite his unassuming appearance, there was a depth in his gaze, a tranquility that only those who harbor powerful secrets possess, knowing precisely when to unveil them. His gray hair was neatly combed, and his work-worn hands told tales of decades of dedication. His upright posture exuded an unshakable dignity. What was most striking about Roberto's reaction was his utter lack of surprise. It was as if he had anticipated this treatment, as if he had already devised a plan for handling such situations. "May I ask what brought you here?" Paula inquired, attempting to alleviate the tension created by her boss. Her voice quivered slightly, as if she sensed that something was amiss. "I wanted to open a business account," Roberto replied simply. "My daughter mentioned that you offer specialized services for large corporations." Anderson let out a derisive laugh. "Large corporations, really?" He scrutinized Roberto from head to toe once more. "Listen, Mr. Silva, perhaps you don't grasp the profile of our clients. We're talking about million-dollar contracts, international partnerships, complex investments." What Anderson failed to realize was that Roberto had not stumbled into the bank by mere chance. Over the past 3 months, his daughter had repeatedly mentioned Sterling Financial during family gatherings. "We're closing a huge partnership with Sterling Financial, Dad, $5 billion. It's the biggest contract in our company's history." While Anderson continued his condescending tirade about profile suitability and institutional standards, Roberto discreetly observed the bank's comings and goings. Well-dressed clients were greeted with warm smiles and gourmet coffee, while executives in expensive suits were ushered directly to private offices. The disparity in treatment was glaring and systematic. "I understand your position," Roberto said gently, interrupting Anderson's monologue. "Indeed, large corporations require partners who are up to the task." Something in Roberto's tone made Anderson pause momentarily. There was a certainty in that statement that clashed with the humiliation he had just inflicted. However, the manager quickly dismissed any concerns. Standing in the revolving door, Roberto did something Anderson would never have anticipated. Instead of walking out defeated and humiliated, he pulled out his cell phone and typed a quick message. "Camila, I need to talk to you about Sterling Financial. It's urgent." The reply came within seconds. "Is there a problem, Dad? I'm just reviewing the final contracts with them." Roberto typed again. "Let's just say I had an interesting experience with customer service. Can we talk tonight?" "Sure, Dad. Are you okay?" Roberto cast one last glance at Anderson, who was now serving a blonde customer in a gray suit with almost obsequious reverence. A discreet smile crept onto his lips. Some people were about to learn that underestimating individuals based on their ID cards could cost them far more than they could imagine. As he strolled down the sunlit sidewalk, Roberto exhibited neither anger nor sadness, only the tranquility of someone who had just witnessed precisely what he had anticipated, as if that humiliation were merely confirmation of a suspicion he had harbored for months. If this tale of prejudice masquerading as professionalism resonated with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from and what time it is in your country. Anderson Mitchell, unable to resist the urge to turn Roberto's humiliation into entertainment for his colleagues, recounted the story during lunch at the executive restaurant on the 20th floor for the third time, gesturing theatrically as he mimicked the supposedly humble voice of the old man. "You should have seen the look on his face when I threw the document on the floor," Anderson laughed, cutting into his grilled salmon. "We all know how it is. These people always think they can walk in anywhere." Paula, his assistant, stirred her salad uncomfortably. "Anderson, maybe he really did have a company. You didn't even check." "Anderson," he interrupted condescendingly, "I've been in this business for 8 years. I know a real client when I see one. That man didn't even have a gold credit card." The other managers laughed, but something in Anderson's overly loud tone suggested he was trying to convince himself as much as the others. There was something about the man's calm demeanor that unsettled him more than he cared to admit. "Besides," Anderson continued, sipping his white wine, "it was a favor for him. Imagine how embarrassing it would have been if he had tried to open an account and found out he didn't even have the minimum deposit. I saved everyone time." What Anderson remained oblivious to was that at that very moment, Roberto was seated in his daughter's kitchen, perusing contracts that would make the arrogant manager swallow every contemptuous word he had uttered. "Dad, you look worried," Camila observed, pouring fresh coffee into a cup that cost more than Anderson's monthly salary. "What happened at Sterling Financial?" Roberto sighed, choosing his words with care. "Let's just say I had an enlightening experience regarding how they treat certain people." "What do you mean?" Camila pressed. "The manager, Anderson Mitchell, from what I saw on his badge, wasn't exactly welcoming. In fact, he was quite clear about the type of client he deemed suitable for the bank." Camila frowned. She recognized Anderson's name from the internal reports she had received during the negotiations, a senior manager responsible for a significant portion of the implementation of the partnership that was about to revolutionize both companies. "Dad, do you want to tell me exactly what happened?" Roberto recounted everything, from the moment he entered the bank to the instant his ID card bounced off the cold marble floor. As he spoke, he noticed his daughter's expression shift from concern to something far more dangerous. Camila was known in the corporate world for her calculating coldness when someone disrespected her. "He threw your ID on the floor." Camila's voice was unnaturally calm, the kind of calm that precedes devastating storms. "Like it was trash?" "Daughter, don't worry. I've been through worse." And he had. Roberto Silva had built his first company from the ashes of the discrimination he faced in the 1980s, when no bank would finance his dream of a construction business. He sold everything he owned, worked 20-hour days, and constructed low-income housing with his own hands until he could hire his first employees. At 60, he had sold that company for a fortune few knew about, his wealth quietly invested in funds across 3 countries. Yet, his modest appearance had never revealed the 8-digit fortune he had amassed through relentless effort. "You know, daughter, it was fascinating to observe how the bank operates, especially considering the partnership you are entering into with them." Camila nodded slowly, her eyes taking on that dangerous gleam Roberto had recognized since she was a child. $5 billion, Dad. It's the biggest contract in our company's history. I wonder how they would react if they knew that the inappropriate old man they humiliated today is the father of the CEO, who is about to make them the most profitable bank in the region. While Anderson dined at an upscale restaurant that evening, celebrating another day of maintaining sterling financial standards, he posted on LinkedIn about the importance of upholding strict quality criteria in customer service. His colleagues praised his dedication to excellence. What he remained unaware of was that Roberto was on a video call with his daughter's 3 senior partners, being introduced as an informal advisor and strategic mentor. "I want you to meet my father," Camila said on the screen. Roberto Silva, my informal advisor and the wisest man I know. Roberto waved at the camera, his expression serene, concealing the plans that were beginning to take shape in his experienced mind. He had spent decades building empires from nothing. Taking down the career of an arrogant manager would be almost recreational. Nice to meet you, Roberto said calmly. Camila told me about the partnership with Sterling Financial. How interesting. During the ensuing conversation, Roberto asked seemingly innocuous questions about timelines, key contacts at the bank, and contract cancellation procedures, information any concerned parent would inquire about, but an experienced strategist would file away meticulously for future use. Out of curiosity, Roberto casually asked, "What is the bank's policy on discrimination? I imagine a company of our size requires partners with solid values." The partners exchanged glances. "That's an excellent question, Mr. Silva. We'll include that in the final review of the contracts." While Anderson slept peacefully in his penthouse, convinced he had kept the undesirables at bay, Roberto stayed up late, meticulously reviewing every detail of the billion-dollar partnership his daughter was about to sign. For a moment, when he bowed his head in the face of insults that morning, everyone at the bank believed they had broken his spirit. But those who understand true strength know that it grows in silence, fueled by injustice, and is about to manifest itself in ways that will turn humiliation into revenge and arrogance into eternal regret. 3 days after the humiliation at the bank, Roberto awoke before dawn and did something he hadn't done in years. He donned his only Hugo Boss suit, which had been hanging in his closet since he sold his first company. This was no time to appear modest. It was time to remember who he truly was. "Dad, are you sure about this?" Camila asked, reviewing the documents scattered across the conference room table for the 10th time. "Once we cancel, there's no turning back. $5 billion, Dad. That's almost half the company's annual revenue." Roberto adjusted his shirt cuffs and smiled. "Daughter, I've learned one thing. Building companies is one thing. Money can be recovered. Dignity, once lost, takes decades to regain." The table was strewn with contracts, termination clauses, and financial reports. Camila had spent the night with her legal team mapping out every comma that would allow the partnership to be canceled without significant legal penalties. Clause 17 allows for unilateral termination in the event of discriminatory practices by the financial institution, explained Dr. Enrique Mora, a senior lawyer with the firm for 15 years. "We'll need concrete evidence." "Leave that to me," Roberto said calmly, sliding a folder across the table. Inside was something that made even the seasoned lawyer gulp. Printouts of Anderson Mitchell's LinkedIn activity from the past 2 years, subtly prejudiced posts about quality standards and cultural fit, comments on articles about corporate diversity that revealed his discriminatory mindset, and likes on questionable content. "My God," murmured Dr. Mora, "how did you get this?" "When you're 60 years old and have been building companies since you were 20, you learn that information is power," Roberto replied. "Anderson Mitchell isn't just arrogant, he's careless." While the Silva family planned meticulously, Anderson Mitchell reveled in what he believed to be another victorious week. He had posted on LinkedIn about an excellent quarter of growth and received dozens of compliments from colleagues. His latest achievement had been rejecting 3 unsuitable candidates for corporate accounts. "Some people don't understand that we maintain high standards here," he remarked to Paula during a coffee break. "It's a matter of preserving the bank's reputation." Paula had grown increasingly uncomfortable with her boss's comments, especially after the incident with Roberto. "Anderson, have you ever thought that maybe we're being too selective?" "Paula, honey, you're still new to this business. Over time, you develop an instinct for recognizing who truly belongs here." What Anderson remained oblivious to was that at that moment, Roberto was being welcomed as a VIP at his daughter's company headquarters. The receptionist greeted him as Mr. Silva, and employees discreetly acknowledged him in the hallways. "Dad, meet Marcus Thompson, our chief financial officer," Camila said, guiding Roberto to a meeting room with a panoramic view of the city. Marcus extended his hand with the respect reserved for major investors. "Mr. Silva, it's an honor to finally meet you. Camila always speaks highly of your business acumen." During the subsequent meeting, Roberto demonstrated why he had built and sold companies for decades. His questions were precise, his analysis surgical, and his suggestions revealed a sharp strategic mind. "Marcus, what would be the financial impact if we had to cancel the partnership with Sterling Financial?" Roberto asked casually. "It would be significant but not catastrophic," Marcus replied after consulting his reports. "We have other banking options that have expressed interest in similar partnerships. Commonwealth National, for example, has offered even better terms." Camila and Roberto exchanged glances. Everything was falling into place. "There's something else you should know," Roberto said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "I've done some research on Anderson Mitchell. This man isn't just occasionally prejudiced, it's systematic." He slid over printouts of internal emails leaked by a disgruntled former Sterling Financial employee, messages in which Anderson referred to Latino clients as cultural risks and questioned the statistical reliability of black entrepreneurs. "This is unbelievable," Marcus whispered. "If this leaks to the public—" "It won't leak," Roberto interrupted, "because we're going to use it much more intelligently." Meanwhile, Anderson was enjoying lunch at his favorite restaurant, posting photos of his gourmet meal on Instagram with the hashtag executive life. Colleagues praised his good taste and enviable lifestyle. He had no inkling that every post, every comment, and every public display of arrogance was being meticulously archived by Roberto's team. "Dad, are you sure you want to go through with this?" Camila asked, sensing the relentless determination in the eyes of the man who had taught her that dignity is non-negotiable. "Daughter, that man humiliated me because he thought I was insignificant. Tomorrow, he'll find out that some people are much more important than they appear to be." That night, while Anderson slept peacefully, dreaming of his next promotion, Roberto remained awake, finalizing what would become the most spectacular downfall the Raleigh banking sector had ever witnessed. The gun was loaded, the target was in his sights, and Anderson Mitchell had no idea he had chosen the wrong opponent to underestimate. For a moment, when he threw that ID card on the floor, Anderson believed he was demonstrating his power. But those who understand true power know that it doesn't need to be flaunted. It simply acts at the right moment, devastatingly and irreversibly. The following morning, Roberto awoke at 5 a.m. and donned his Hugo Boss suit once more. Today, it wouldn't just be his father who faced humiliation. It would be the man who would teach Anderson Mitchell that underestimating people could cost $5 billion. "Camila, are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" Dr. Mora asked for the 10th time, reviewing the termination documents. "Once signed, there's no turning back." "Doctor, my father taught me that dignity is priceless, and $5 billion won't buy the respect they denied him." Meanwhile, Anderson arrived at Sterling Financial beaming. He had received a message from management informing him of an urgent meeting with strategic partners, scheduled for 10 a.m. In his arrogant mind, it could only mean one thing. His promotion had finally arrived. "Paula, have my desk polished and prepare the special coffee," Anderson ordered, adjusting the gold tie he reserved for important occasions. "Today is the day my career takes off." At 9:45 a.m., Anderson was in his office, organizing the last details, when Paula appeared at the door, her face visibly pale. "Anderson, there's a problem. The Silva family is here for the meeting." "Silva?" Anderson frowned. "I don't know any Silvas important enough for strategic meetings." "It's the man from yesterday, the one you—" Paula swallowed hard. "He's with a woman who introduced herself as the CEO of Coleman Industries." Anderson's blood ran cold. Coleman Industries, the $5 billion company, the one that would make his career, the one whose contract was being finalized that week. "Impossible," Anderson muttered, but his hands were already trembling as he searched for information on the computer. The search returned a result that nearly made Anderson faint. Roberto Silva, 60 years old, retired businessman, father of Coleman Industries CEO Camila Silva, estimated net worth $120 million. "No, no, no," Anderson repeated like a mantra as he hurried through the corridors toward the main meeting room. When he opened the door, the scene confirmed his worst nightmare. Roberto sat calmly at the main table, wearing the same impeccable suit, that brutally contrasted with the simple clothes he had worn the day before. At his side was an elegant woman in her 40s, unmistakably powerful and professional. "Mr. Mitchell," Camila Silva said in an icy tone, "I believe you've already met my father, Roberto Silva." Anderson attempted to force a smile, but his legs trembled visibly. "Mr. Silva, there was a misunderstanding yesterday. I didn't know." Roberto interrupted calmly. "Interesting. I thought Sterling Financial treated all clients with respect, regardless of appearance." The regional director, Michael Thompson, arrived, clearly agitated. "Miss Silva, Mr. Silva, I apologize for any inconvenience. Anderson, would you please step outside?" "Actually," Camila interjected, opening an elegant briefcase, "we would like Mr. Mitchell to stay. After all, he was the one who helped us make a very important decision." Anderson felt sweat trickle down his back. "What decision?" Roberto smiled serenely. "The decision to cancel our $5 billion partnership with Sterling Financial." The silence in the room was deafening. Michael Thompson looked as if he had been punched in the stomach. "Camila, we can work this out. Anderson will be disciplined, I promise you." "It's too late," Roberto stated, his presence dominating the room. "Yesterday, when you humiliated me, I was just a customer. Today, I am the father of the CEO you just lost." Anderson collapsed into his chair, reality finally dawning on him. $5 billion, his career, his reputation, all obliterated by a few seconds of arrogance. "Please," he whispered. "I didn't know. I can change. I can learn." Roberto nodded. "I sincerely hope you can, because the next person you judge by their appearance may have a daughter even more powerful than mine." With that, Roberto calmly exited, leaving Anderson alone with the wreckage of his career. Outside, employees whispered in the hallways, the news of the cancellation of the largest partnership in the bank's history spreading like wildfire. At that moment, Anderson realized that some individuals carry a silent power that only reveals itself when underestimated by those who confuse arrogance with intelligence. True strength does not need to announce itself. It simply acts when necessary, in a devastating and irreversible manner. 2 weeks after the meeting that changed everything, Anderson Mitchell cleaned out his desk for the final time. His dismissal had been swift and without negotiation. 8 years of his career at Sterling Financial now reduced to a cardboard box and contemptuous glances from former colleagues in the hallways. "Did you really think you could treat clients like that and get away with it?" Paula, now promoted to his former position, watched with a mix of pity and poetic justice. Roberto Silva was literally the father of the biggest client in the bank's history. What made it worse for Anderson was discovering that his humiliation had gone viral internally. Employees shared the story in WhatsApp groups, always concluding with the same phrase, "Never judge a book by its cover." Meanwhile, Roberto and Camila signed an even larger partnership with Commonwealth National Bank, $5.2 billion, $300 million more than Sterling Financial's original offer. The director of Commonwealth, impressed by the Silva family's history of integrity, offered preferential terms. "Mr. Silva," said Marcus Chun, president of Commonwealth National, "it is an honor to work with a family that values dignity above profit. That is rare in the corporate world." Roberto smiled serenely. "Marcus, I've learned that true partners are those who respect you at the first handshake, not after learning about your net worth." News of the cancellation of the billion-dollar partnership spread through the financial sector like wildfire. Anderson discovered in the worst possible way that his reputation had been shattered, not only at Sterling Financial, but throughout the Raleigh market. 3 months later, he remained unemployed. Every interview ended the same way. "Oh, you're Anderson who lost the $5 billion contract? Thanks, but we'll pass." One day, while sipping coffee alone in a modest cafe, Anderson spotted Roberto entering the establishment. The man who had humiliated him was dressed in simple clothes again, but now Anderson knew exactly who stood before him. Roberto ordered his coffee, paid politely, and as he passed Anderson's table, he paused briefly. "Good morning, Anderson. How's the job search going?" Anderson swallowed hard. "Mr. Silva, I'd like to apologize. I didn't know." Anderson, Roberto gently interrupted. You knew exactly what you needed to know, that I was a human being who deserved basic respect. Everything else was irrelevant. But I can change. I can learn, Anderson pleaded. Roberto nodded. I sincerely hope you can, because the next person you judge by their appearance may have a daughter even more powerful than mine. With that, Roberto calmly walked out, leaving Anderson alone with the bitter reality that some lessons come too late to salvage a career destroyed by one's own hands. 6 months later, Coleman Industries had grown by 40%, driven by its partnership with Commonwealth National. Roberto, officially hired as a strategic consultant for his daughter's company, used his office to mentor young entrepreneurs facing discrimination in the market. Dad, you turned humiliation into growth for hundreds of people, Camila remarked, watching Roberto mentor a young black entrepreneur who had been rejected by 3 banks. Daughter, I've discovered that the best revenge isn't about destroying those who hurt you. It's about building something so great that they realize how small they were. Sterling Financial never fully recovered from the loss. The story became a case study in business schools about how prejudice can cost billions. Anderson became a symbol of everything wrong with discriminatory customer service. Paula, now a regional manager, implemented a diversity and inclusion program that became a model for other banks. On the wall of her office, she kept a framed quote, "Respect first, ask questions later." A year later, Roberto was invited to speak at the National Banking Convention on the importance of universal respect in customer service. When he took the stage, he spotted Anderson in the audience, now working as an insurance salesman, a shadow of the arrogant executive he once was. Ladies and gentlemen, Roberto began his speech. Today I'm going to tell you how 5 seconds of disrespect cost a financial institution $5 billion. Anderson hung his head, knowing that his story would be told once again, but this time as an example of what never to do. Roberto concluded his speech with a reflection that resonated throughout the convention. The difference between dignified treatment and discrimination is not in the wealth of the person standing before you. It's in the character of the person serving them. As he stepped off the stage to warm applause, Roberto realized he had transformed his humiliation into a lesson that would change how thousands of professionals treat their customers. That ID card thrown on the floor had not shattered his dignity. It had revealed the moral fragility of those who believe that power is measured by the ability to humiliate others. Anderson had tried to destroy Roberto, but ended up destroying himself. Roberto learned that true revenge is not about repaying the damage suffered. It is about achieving the success that his enemies could never fathom. If this story of justice and transformation resonated with you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more content that proves the best response to prejudice is success built with dignity and intelligence.